Chapter 26. A Race Against Time. In a state of utter panic and fear, Brian grabbed his mobile phone and hastily dialed the police. Without pausing to think, he blurted out, "My children, they're in danger. Please help me. They're on the floor, not moving. Please hurry." The officer on the other end attempted to soothe Brian, asking him to take deep breaths and explain his situation more clearly. Brian tried to compose himself, taking several deep breaths before recounting everything from the moment he discovered the hidden door to the shocking scene he witnessed on the laptop. The officer assured him that help was on the way and instructed him to stay on the line. Brian agreed, answering the officer's questions as best as he could. After a moment of silence filled with anxiety and dread, Brian quietly placed the phone down without hanging up, ensuring the officer could still hear any sounds or conversations. He then turned his attention back to the laptop, his hands trembling as he clicked through the folders filled with photos. He searched for a particular photo, one that had stuck in his mind. When he found it, he opened the file. It was the photo of him with the children, smiling and happy, taken in the very room where the children now lay motionless. The background of the photo eerily featured the mannequin with a wig. A chill ran through Brian as he made the connection. The realization that the happy moment captured in the photo was from the same room now displaying such a horrific scene filled him with a deep sense of dread. Brian's mind raced as he tried to piece together the puzzle. How did a room that once held such joy turn into the scene of such a distressing situation? And what role did the mannequin with the wig play in all of this? His thoughts were interrupted by the police officer's voice coming from the phone, asking if Brian was still there. Brian quickly picked up the phone, reassuring the officer he was still on the line. The officer informed him that the police were just minutes away and to stay put and try to remain calm. As Brian waited, anxiously pacing back and forth, he couldn't shake off the cold fear gripping his heart. The connection between the photo and the live footage was too significant to ignore. It hinted at a story far more complex and sinister than he could have imagined. Chapter 27. The Night Unfolds. Just a few minutes had passed when Brian heard loud knocks at the door. Bang! 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 Police! Open up! The sound made his heart race. As he moved to answer the door, a sudden memory hit him. He remembered which door he had kicked down and what happened after that. Panic set in because he knew he shouldn't open the door. In a desperate attempt to escape, he considered jumping out of the window, but before he could act on this thought, the police officers broke down the door and grabbed him, preventing any escape. The officers quickly subdued him, pinning him down because they were unsure of who he was or why he attempted to flee. Once they had Brian under control, they began to question him about his identity and the events leading up to this moment. Brian, still shaken, gestured toward the hidden room and started to explain everything he had discovered. "I think I might have done something terrible," he confessed, his voice filled with fear and confusion. Brian recounted the discovery of the hidden door, the mysterious room beyond it, and the chilling contents he found on the laptop, including the live footage that had sent him into a state of panic. The officers listened intently, their initial skepticism giving way to concern as the gravity of Brian's story became apparent. "Show us this hidden room," one officer demanded. Brian led them, his steps unsteady, to the concealed space. The officers were visibly taken aback by the sight of the room, cluttered with old toys, photographs, and the laptop that still displayed the disturbing live feed. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, one of the officers called for additional support. "We need backup and detectives here to figure this out," he said into his radio, his voice urgent. As they waited for backup to arrive, the atmosphere in the room was tense. Brian sat, overwhelmed by the events of the night and terrified of the implications of his discoveries. The officers, meanwhile, examined the room more closely, trying to piece together the evidence that surrounded them. The hidden room, once a place of mystery and intrigue for Brian, had become a crime scene that required thorough investigation. The officers secured the area, ensuring nothing was disturbed until detectives arrived. Brian felt a complex mix of emotions as he watched the officers work. Relief that he was no longer alone with his discoveries battled with the fear of what those discoveries might mean. "What have I uncovered?" he wondered silently, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on him. The arrival of backup and detectives promised to bring more answers, but also more questions. The night had revealed secrets that had long been buried, and now Brian and the officers faced the daunting task of unraveling the truth. Chapter 28. A Twist in the Tale. More officers arrived quickly. Brian was extremely nervous and kept begging, "Please, you must find my children." The tension was palpable. Nobody knew if the children were still alive. It was a race against time. The police called in a technician to examine the laptop closely, hoping to pinpoint the location of the cameras. Due to Brian's high level of distress and his difficulty in answering questions clearly, the decision was made to take him to the police station to allow the officers to proceed with their investigation without interruption. Upon arrival at the station, Brian was asked to change into different clothes. They took his photo and fingerprinted him, standard procedure for anyone brought in under such circumstances. Then, he was escorted to an interrogation room to wait for further questioning. After about 30 minutes, a detective entered the room. "Hello, I'm Detective Taylor," he introduced himself, placing a cup of coffee and a glass of water in front of Brian. After allowing Brian a moment to compose himself, Detective Taylor began the interrogation. Brian recounted everything from discovering the hidden door to watching the unsettling footage on the laptop. He spoke of his brain tumor, the surgery, his memory loss, and the doctor's warnings about his hallucinations. As he reached the end of his story, Brian revealed that fragments of his memory were starting to resurface. Detective Taylor, intrigued, leaned forward. "What exactly are you starting to remember?" he asked gently. Brian hesitated, then confessed, "I think I did something terrible to my wife." He described how he remembered kicking down a bedroom door to find a man inside. Overwhelmed by jealousy and anger, believing his wife was cheating on him, he attacked the man. "I hit him many times, and I think I hit her too because she was on the floor," Brian said, his voice filled with remorse and confusion. "It had to be in another house, but I can't remember where it was or even who my wife was." The room fell silent as Detective Taylor processed Brian's confession. This revelation added a complex layer to the case. If Brian's fragmented memories were accurate, they were dealing with a situation far more complicated than initially thought. Detective Taylor made notes and assured Brian that they would investigate his claims thoroughly. "We're going to help you piece everything together," he promised. The detective steps out to discuss the new developments with his team. The mystery surrounding Brian's past, the hidden room, and the children's safety deepens, casting a shadow over the investigation. The search for the truth now takes on a new direction, aiming to unravel the tangled web of Brian's memories and the disturbing events he described. The story will continue. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.